I'm very worried about what's going to end up happening with kids during this pandemic, thanks to the fact that sending kids back to school has become like the newest front in the unnecessary, needless culture war behind the pandemic. Trump sort of launched us into it with his tweets about how, hey, if Germany, Denmark, Norway, and Sweden can do it with no problems, then we should be able to too. Of course, forgetting, as we pointed out at the time, that they have far, 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 far less coronavirus than we do. And the issue is that no matter how many times a guest goes on Fox and says, don't worry about kids, they don't get it, they can't spread it, and all of that, apparently they can, because nearly 1/3 of every person under 18 years old tested for the coronavirus in Florida tested positive for the virus, according to a report last Friday. A full 1/3. Now, yes, you can ask, how are they choosing who to test and all of that? Fine, let's have these questions, let's find out as much as we can, but the issue is that they are getting it. They are not immune, no matter how much we like to imagine that they will be. Now, they are less likely to be symptomatic. They're less likely to have severe immediate consequences from a COVID infection, but that doesn't mean that there isn't any danger. Some have died, and doctors, such as Dr. Alina Alonso, the Palm Beach County's health department director, says we're seeing damage to the lungs in these asymptomatic children. We don't know how that is going to manifest a year from now or 2 years from now. Is that child going to have chronic pulmonary problems or not? And so we need to bear in mind that just because the kids don't immediately need to be put on ventilators and don't immediately die at large numbers, although some have died, it doesn't mean that it doesn't matter that they have it, that it doesn't have consequences.
Yeah,
Thoughts on schools?
yeah, no, that's really good analysis there on that. I I'm really sympathetic because outside of this political realm, which we've kind of talked about as being super cursed, like there are people out there who are, if they are lucky enough to be able to work from home and they have kids, their kids are at home and it's really hard to deal with kids
Yeah.
because of the way the educational system sits in our country. It's the way overworked parents are able to have their kids be kind of taken care of and like theoretically taught things during the day while they work. And so doing that's very hard. And there's also legitimate developmental issues. So like this gap in education, I think there's going to be studies done years from now by social scientists on what long-term effects this is going to have on kids in their developmental ages, like preschool, early childhood development, that kind of thing. This gap is really hard, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we're looking at, we need to weigh all of these health things. And we have these cases where even asymptomatic kids, okay, maybe kids aren't going to have the high mortality rates you're seeing with people at different ages or with different chronic conditions.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember being a kid and discovering my peanut allergy like as a kid just
Yeah.
in school. And so like I would hate for like that's a really big jump. But the thing is I'm saying when you're a kid, that's when you discover you have things wrong with you. So like I would hate to discover that I have some like respiratory issue or there seems to be more or less of a respiratory thing and hit the vascular system of the body. But I hate to learn that I have this kind of issue as a kid with COVID because of issues or because of decisions that were made by people in power that were just plainly wrong and plainly out of tune with science.
Yeah.
That would be terrible childhood.
Yeah. 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 100%. And the possibility of lifelong effects. We just got a super chat from A New Hope saying, "I work in healthcare in Florida. Kids are testing positive and some hospitalized. Good God, people wake up." Yeah, they're seeing it, and we don't know what the long term effects will be. Hopefully, nothing. But there's indications that it might have long term effects, and that is incredibly scary. It's incredibly scary for them. Also, when Fox will have 3 pundits on to talk about opening the schools, and they're like, the kids, they get it at very low rates and all of that. The mortality rate is so low for kids, and I think that's good. And then I wonder, what's the mortality rate for their 65-year-old teacher? Probably worse. Probably worse. And they will
Yeah.
be surrounded by tons of these kids. And the thing is, any individual kid is going to have a very low chance, I guess, of getting it and spreading it, being hospitalized from it. But we're not talking about one kid. We're talking about masses of kids, millions of kids, and lots of teachers and support staff and principals and janitors and all of that too. It's a mess. It doesn't mean it's a mess that we can't fix, but we're not going to fix it with just, we got to do it no matter what happens. We got to live with it. Just go back. That is not a solution. It's not a solution we should live with anyway. Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.